Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hear Me Out Pitch. I'm Tim,
And I'm Willem.
and it's snowing. Oh, it is
I loved it.
snowing.
I loved it. I didn't go to work today. My body, I was exhausted, and I went out and sat in the hot tub while it snowed. It was
Yeah,
wonderful.
my wife is sick, and last night at like 3 a.m. or so, um, she kind of started dying a little bit. Coughing fit, all the fun stuffs, and you know how it goes. You get you have the coughing fit and body aches and all that stuff, and all you want to do is sleep. I got her just a bunch of meds so that she could fall asleep, and
Drugs.
yeah, I drugged my wife. No, but I got her a bunch of meds, and she spilled Gatorade all over our duvet.
Oh, not the duvet.
And so when we went back, I threw it in the washer and got it washing, and then we ended up falling asleep under a much thinner blanket, and it was kind of cold.
I will just throw on many blankets in the wintertime until I'm warm. In the wintertime, I just go 1, 2, 3. It's whatever.
I get you.
You could say that, it's been very cold and very dark of nights recently.
Uh-huh.
That was awful.
Wow. Okay.
And then hopefully tomorrow will be a brighter day.
Yeah. Maybe maybe not. We might have to use a lantern.
Oh.
Light our way.
All right. All
Sorry, that
right.
was
All right.
bad.
You won in the cheesiness today.
Yep. So yeah, if you hadn't guessed, we're talking about Green Lantern.
And you'll have seen the cover, so y'all know. So
Yeah.
we're gonna try to be better and just get right to the point.
Yep. So it's the Green Lantern. It's the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern. And okay, I'm gonna preface this. Compared to the movies that we've gotten in the last 5-6 years, this is not a bad movie.
No, it was.
No,
it wasn't the worst that I've seen.
It's better than most DC movies I've seen,
But just
especially the recent ones.
yeah.
And it's way better than like 90% of the Marvel movies we've gotten in the last 5 years.
I think I'd rather watch this than Ant-Man,
Agreed.
Quantumania.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. I enjoyed this movie enough. I'm not gonna buy it, but it's a movie that I would watch again.
I love the Green Lantern, and watching this, I think it was when Ryan Reynolds was deciding, do I want to be, I don't know, he's been serious. I need to watch Blade because I've heard from people that he's serious in Blade. But I think he was a good Hal Jordan. I do think of Nathan Fillion though when I think of Green Lantern though. He did the voice many times. Do you know who Nathan Fillion is?
I don't.
Firefly or Castle, or he does. If you saw him, you'd recognize him. You'd be like, "Oh my goodness, he's
Oh.
a giant nerd."
Oh, Castle. You mean Rick Castle,
Yeah.
the writer?
Yep.
Yes.
Rick Castle.
I do know that.
He, to me, is one of the best forms of. He actually did a fan movie about Nathan Drake once, and it was phenomenal. So he, to me, would be. I think he should always. He's like the Kevin Conroy of Green Lantern to me. He's just the voice I hear, the voice I think of when I think of Green Lantern. Ryan Reynolds, though, wasn't bad.
No.
Tim can tell you, though, I think my favorite character in that whole movie, though, was Blake Lively's character. Can't even remember her name, but I freaked out because I was like, okay, I know that they're like 11, 12 years apart in age, and this is the movie that set them up, but how old was she when she's...
In this movie, Blake Lively is my age.
Yep.
She's 20. She's
She
22.
was 22. Her character was supposed to be older because they're supposed to be childhood friends,
Yeah.
but because she just got done with Gossip Girl and just had this more I guess, mature sense about her, she played it. But watching it now, I first saw her and I went, "Oh, she's a baby."
Hmm.
Like if I,
She
it was just funny.
here's the thing about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. They play their role really well.
Oh yeah, and they're just
It's
an
not. It's
adorable.
never, from what I've found, it's never their fault that a movie goes bad. It's always
Others.
the writing of the movie or the
Oh yeah,
CGI being
and
garbage
it was
or
2010. Usually we don't kind of crap on CGIs, but the thing is, this movie came out 2 years after Iron Man, and
Mhm.
it was bad with the animation.
Yeah.
When Iron Man takes over that city in the Middle East and saves all those refugees, I I still watch that scene today at the gym, and I go, "Wow, that holds up."
Mhm.
Green Lantern was an eyesore.
A little bit.
A
Yeah.
little
There
bit.
were some scenes where we both looked at each other and were like, that's where the
Oh
budget
yeah,
went.
when they're on Oa
Uh-huh.
or if he's close up of certain aliens, yeah. And Parallax was definitely a big. I just
That was cool. I liked
it was
Parallax.
yeah. Parallax is cool, and the thing is though, this movie is basically big giant, big bad, and a
Big.
herald. And we've seen that so many times, whether it be Unicron with Megatron, whether it be Galactus with the Silver Surfer. This wasn't anything new,
No.
but it could have been so much better.
Yeah.
I don't think it should have taken place on Earth, really. At least, like, for the first half, and then the rest is his training and him accepting it. Because I absolutely loved that. Oh my gosh, what was Blake Lively's character's name?
Carol.
Carol, not Danvers. Carol
Carol starts with an F. I don't remember.
Ferris.
Yes.
Is it really?
Yes.
Yep. All right. Yep. Because Carol Ferris, like I said,
Ferris
was going to
wheel.
become one of the purple. She becomes one of the first purple lanterns later on.
Was it Pink Lantern?
Oh, yes, it might
She's
be
one
pink.
of the ones the love
Yeah, so it
power of
was pink.
love.
Which, if none of you didn't know, they have, made many other lantern corps. They all have their own oath in a way. One is orange, which is avarice, and there can only be one avarice lantern at a time because, that's what avarice is.
Hmm.
Red is anger, and they are amazing because it was a Green Lantern who got so angry that he made it just to spite them.
Yeah, it's almost like a Jedi, right? When they
They
bleed their
are
kyber crystal. It's not the same, but it's
I would say it's heavily influenced. Blue is probably my favorite. They are hope, and they're oh man, I got like here you got to read. So I just want to share some of these though, and especially with the green one. We'll talk about the green one more. But for those of you who don't remember, which I really wish the movie would have emphasized on this more, it's in brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light. And the scene of, and just first complaint to me is that scene of him first getting the ring. When you first get a ring as a lantern, at least in more modern day adaptations, is when you're chosen, it comes to you and it says you have been chosen to be part of the Green Lantern Corps, and you get the ring on it, and if you accept it, the words will just spill out of you. And it's amazing. I've seen it in a few cartoons. Young Justice did it with a very unique character, and it was very, very cute how they did it.
I mean, they kind of had that in this movie.
Kind of.
Kind of like he did finally when he touched the ring to the lantern, then the words came to him.
Hmm.
But I feel like it shouldn't have taken him that long to like touch the ring to the lantern.
It. I feel
The
like
first thing I would have done is touched the ring to the lantern. That's the
I
first
think
thing
I
I
think
would
you
have done.
definitely would have, and I think especially and Abin Sur dying just so casually, and there also we talked about the ring bringing him to.
Yeah, so there's like the abduction scene.
That's not how it works.
No.
The rings go out and they find people.
Mm-hmm.
This one just chose him and brought it. It's like no, that's
The
not how it
ring,
works.
the Green Lantern rings are sentient. Like
They are
they will straight up just talk to you.
they will, and they are probably some of the coolest items in. They are spread.
Yeah.
These Green Lanterns are probably some of the coolest thing, and I would bet some money that Brandon Sanderson, one of his favorite superheroes, is Green Lantern. I just, there's money there. I would really put money on it because some of the stuff I'm like, okay, Kaladin's a Green Lantern, I guess, cool.
I mean, you're not wrong. He kind of is.
But with him, I think with they live on bases. He's a pilot. They could have had him been on a base in the middle of the nowhere, middle of nowhere,
Middle of the nowhere.
and
Yes.
he could have seen a flight coming in. It could have crashed. And the thing is, that would have been to me a better way for him to remember his dad is seeing a ship coming down on fire, and you see
Mhm.
the flashback of him watching his dad's plane crash. And then sees him running. That would have been a better scene than him flying in the plane and and stalling was cool. Stalling, I didn't say Stalin. We are not communists here. And for him to be just stalling and falling down from the sky and then having that nervous breakdown, it just felt weird.
It did. It felt out of place. And it made it honestly didn't feel like a superhero movie at that point. Like, and I don't know if that's just me, but at that point when they're flying and I don't know, it felt like it was setting up a lot more for his dad to be a lot more of an influence, and then it wasn't. Like we hear about his dad like two other times in the movie, and it just I don't know. It also there were a lot of parts that felt
Rushed.
rushed, and they didn't feel it. They didn't feel superhero-y
No,
at all.
it,
Like
it didn't. I don't, and I think they might have
yeah.
been nervous for trying to compete with Marvel, but why not? There was a time where DC was trying to be original. They had some very wonderful standoffs and stories, and some of the stories, and Green Lantern had one of the coolest stories ever, The Blackest Night, where the Black Lanterns try to take over, and Black Lantern is death, white is life, and black were just basically necromancers, and they are causing a zombie plague sort of thing. It's really cool. I need to read it again, but if they would have had that be a thing, even an animated movie, I would watch that. I would be super happy for that. Maybe the trope of, seeing Hal in the beginning and his father bestowing upon him, being brave, not showing fear, and Hal feels like he has to fake it and fake it and fake it, which there were some parts of the movie where it really did feel like he was admitting he was scared.
Mhm.
It's like with Shazam. They're like, we need someone pure of heart and who's perfect. And in more recent versions, he's like, I'm not perfect. There's no way a Green Lantern cannot ever be scared. It's your willpower. You can be scared and be full of will.
Mhm.
Sometimes the fear is what makes you brave, or at least the fear is what pushes you to be brave and fight it. That's why I said Dalinar would be a good Green Lantern.
Yeah. I feel like here's one of the things about being human, right?
It's weird. It's awful. Just kidding.
It
I'm
is.
sorry.
No, being human, right? We all have fears. We all have that. We all feel fear. Whether it's the fear of losing someone close to us, it's the fear of heights, fear of spiders. Dad, I'm talking about you. Um, fear of snakes, fear of water, the fear of long words, whatever your fear is, right? For normal people, our fears drive us to be better, right? Um, there's a quote, and I can't quote it perfectly. And I'm not even going to try to quote, but I will summarize. And the quote basically explains that fear drives humanity to be better, and that's what makes us so great. That's what puts us above all other creatures on this planet is that we as humans take our fear, we learn from it, and we try to be better and we push through it. That's what made Batman so good, is he took his own fears and then he pushed through and used his own fears against his enemies. And now he's one of the most well-known superheroes in the world.
And it's funny because my first Green Lantern, the random tangent is my first Green Lantern wasn't Hal Jordan, it was John Stewart. I always thought Green Lantern was black because of Justice League,
Mm-hmm.
Justice League United, Static Shock, Batman Beyond, all those shows. I was like, oh my gosh. And then Hal Jordan came out and I was like, what? Who's this guy? And I think it's cool to see. I think I think Hal being the first one and him showing the Guardians that, okay, this young race can do it. And then we get John Stewart later. And then we get, I always want to call him Army Hammer, but that's the actor. Guy, I forget his name, but he's
Guy Fieri.
not Guy Fieri, but he is a jerk and he's insane, but he's a good Lantern. He's cocky. But I think, I don't know, I'm just disappointed in where this movie gone and why we haven't seen a good live action Green Lanterns yet. Whether it be Jon Stewart or Hal Jordan, I will take it either way.
Yeah.
Because they both have their own stories. They both are very worthy to be the Green Lanterns. And I don't know. I really do hope to see more of this character. And I just again, the death of Abin Sur and the ring, just that part just bugged the crap out of me. But another thing that bugged me was the villain. Because I just felt pity for him. I didn't even feel bad. I just feel like if you're gonna do a herald, you got to do it right. And as someone who has made heralds for our D&D campaign, I was like, this is the lamest villain I've ever had. Because I feel like he didn't even want to be bad.
No, it was almost, I don't know.
Forced again. I'll say forced.
They wrote the bad guy to be weak. Honestly, he was weak, and they just did him dirty. I feel like what I would have liked to have seen is Hector, right, the bad guy, getting a yellow ring. I feel like that's something that they could have done, and then that would have been a good way to introduce the Yellow Lantern as well and talk about the difference between fear and willpower. And then it could be a big fight at the end between maybe Parallax turns into the ring itself, a ring of pure fear, right? And then Hector's using it against Hal, and willpower is able to overcome fear, as I talked about with Batman, right? He pushed through his fears with the bats. He turned the Bat Cave into the Bat Cave, used his own fears.
Sorry, that was good.
He used his own fears to strike fear into the hearts of others. And I feel like that's something that Hal could have used, is he could have used his own fears to fight Parallax.
Well, that's
something like that. I don't know.
That's actually how the Yellow Lantern works in a way. It is you are driving on people's fear, and you are using that to you cause the fear, and you break down their willpower, and you can make your own constructs. And yellow is, for some reason, I don't understand completely, but yellow is a weakness to the Green Lantern. So if you cover him in green, I don't know why, but it doesn't. I mean, in yellow, like you shoot him with like yellow paint, it will hinder him for a moment. Don't know why it does it, but that's just something weird. But I think I don't think I would have given Hector a ring, but I would have had him start like manifesting things. Like we see him, becoming the embodiment of fear. And then at the end, Sinestro kind of sacrifices away to his ring either gets corrupted or they turn it into the ring. But I definitely would have ended the movie with, I would have had him be training Hal even more, because he really was like one of Hal's good friends. He was a good leader. But like we talked about, he's a Count Dooku or Qui-Gon Jinn really character. Just this character of, I don't like what you guys are doing. I'm gonna do my own thing. Not really that bad, but he's not really that good.
He's a little more lawful neutral
Yes.
than anything
Ve-
else.
I think lawful neutral is a very good way to put him. He's just, I don't know, he just wants to do his own thing, and I've always loved, and he is the creator of it's the Sinestro Corps. It's not the Yellow Lanterns, it's the Sinestro Corps.
Mhm.
And if you've never heard his oath, it's in blackest day and brightest night, beware your fears made into light. Let those who try to stop what's right burn like my power, Sinestro's might. He will do what he thinks is right.
Yeah.
In one version of the Justice League, Superman tries to control everything. Lois Lane and his baby are killed by the Joker. He kills the Joker, makes his own regime. You've heard of this story.
I know that story.
Yeah, it was a very well done story, because really, if Superman just snaps one day, he goes, I have the power to, put the world in its place. And Sinestro, Black Adam, they align with what he did, and they're not bad, but they're like, And it's awkward because in some stances, Sinestro convinces Hal to wear the yellow ring, and it feels wrong. But how do you control people? You don't really, you can force your willpower on them, but like Tony Stark said, is it better to be feared or respected?
Is it too much to ask for both?
Yeah. So it's a lot of cool little parallels like that. Yeah. I think that the Green Lantern really does mean so much, and for him just to have been kind of wasted at this movie, they had some good parts. Were there any parts of it that you were like, this was good?
Most of the bits with Blake Lively, when she was just her character, she did a really good job, especially when they're talking on top of the
Her office building.
on top of the office building, and she basically is like, I'm disappointed in you because you're walking away, you're running away again, kind of thing. That was good.
That was the scene. I'm just kidding. I have no idea this is true, but if that was me and her acting that scene and she was telling me those things, I would fall in love with that woman. Just for her to tell me that she's disappointed. She goes off out of his sight, leaves him, and she breaks down in tears because of, how much it hurts to like see this man.
Someone that she's grown to love.
Yeah, just given all that power and just wasted. Imagine if Mary Jane, sorry, no, it would have been Mary Jane, it would have been Gwen. But imagine if Gwen would have known right off the bat and Peter would have been stealing stuff or, sullying, Uncle Ben's memory. She would have been heartbroken. Lois Lane with Superman. Yeah. Selena Kyle with Batman. They all would have just, well, not really Selena. Maybe. I don't know.
No, not really.
Not really.
Nah.
She'd be like, oh, we could steal stuff together. Oh my gosh.
That's yeah. I think another one of those scenes is during that final fight when she goes out of her way, puts herself in danger to save Hal and to make sure that he is able to, to be the Green Lantern, and she tosses him the ring,
which he should be able to recall it, but it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine. I will try not to.
There's I don't know tons about Green Lantern.
I have always loved that your ring is green.
I know,
because I've always been like, oh, does Tim like the Green Lantern? And now that you say that, I'm like,
green's just my favorite color.
Ah,
and so yeah, no, I've got 2 wedding rings. I got this green one and a blue one. But
that's all. You have 2?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
We got a 2 for 1.
2 for 1 special.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
But we're not talking about my ring. We're talking about Green Lantern.
We're
talking about Hal Jordan's ring.
That was good.
No, unlike my ring, Hal Jordan's ring can make him can let him manifest his will into reality.
What would you construct?
I I don't know.
Because
I
they
would
showed that they
fly.
could do so. Well, you
I
could
would
fly
fly.
no
That's
matter
that's the
what.
big thing I would do. I would fly everywhere. I wouldn't drive anywhere anymore. I might even like sell my car. No, I wouldn't sell my car.
I'd make a car.
I like my car. But I would fly everywhere.
Okay.
Um I don't know.
You know, one of the lanterns, sorry, well, just to kind of let you think a little more, but I
Mhm.
love one of the lanterns because, you know, Hal and John, one, um, John Stewart, military, uh, excellent fighter. He does a lot of guns, he does a lot of mech kind of things, like
Mhm.
whatever. Hal, a lot of airplane kind of things with
Air,
him because that's what he thinks
Air
of.
Force.
You know, if you know, that's kind of whatever your mindset would be. This one, I can't remember his name. It's kind of a newer one. I say newer, but he's been around probably for a decade and a half now. But he's an artist, and he will just make like Gundams, and he makes giant robots. He makes dinosaurs because however you can construct it with your mind, and since he can draw these things and
Mhm.
think of them easier, his willpower, he can just make them, and it's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's one thing that like with being Green Lantern, having a great imagination would be awesome. I think I would use mine for storytelling, a lot of storytelling. Imagine Dungeons and Dragons. We're
You would be sitting
playing.
there making little
I
constructs.
would make. I would create the terrain. I would create everything. I'd make it appear as though your characters are actually doing what
Kind of like
you're saying.
a hollow thing from Star Wars kind of thing that kind
Yeah,
of looks like.
it's almost like light weaving. That's
Oh,
that's kind of
yeah,
how I would
yeah.
use it. I would use it as like an
But they
illusion.
physical and they
But
could
they are
like
physical.
you just have the piece
Uh-huh.
hits one of our characters, the pieces, blood sprays over us. Yeah. Do it again.
I think that's probably how I would do it. But I don't know. There's not one main thing I would do with it. I would do anything that I needed to, whether that's flight or it's going to help build a house and I make tools or whatever. I pick up the stuff, put it together, whatever. Any of it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, you could do so much with it. You can make
Anything you can
anything.
imagine.
But it comes with how well your willpower is, and it doesn't last forever. Because he makes that necklace on her, and I was like, that's cute, but
It's cute, but
it was
that's
gone.
yeah.
It was gone in the next scene, and you're like, oh. And I wish they would have.
I kind of wish we would have seen it disappear as she's, kind of berating him.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been a wonderful scene. Just she starts berating him, and he just kind of is losing it.
I'm disappointed that you're walking away. I can't believe you're walking away, and then it just kind of fades away from it.
So,
I don't know.
would you want to still have a herald, or would you want to kind of be more out? I think I wouldn't have the herald be someone human. I think I would have
Mhm.
kept it as the guardian, and he did become bigger and mightier, but I think I would have just kept it that he's the main thing. He's gonna attack Oa, and that it would take a human to remind them that they can push through their fear. They can, even if you are afraid, you're
Mhm.
still worthy.
One of the newer species that the only thing they can do is push through their fears. They can't run from it forever.
Because there are probably some aliens out there who literally cannot comprehend fear, and they just go and they're very animatronic.
Mhm.
Kind of like how I forget his name, his teacher, his mentor, he just didn't seem phased.
Yeah.
But he seemed like he would put up a good fight. And then Kilowog, who was one of Michael Clark Duncan's last roles, and for anyone who doesn't know who that is, he's the big giant friendly black man in The Green Mile. One of my favorite actors. He passed away like a year after this movie, so it was one of his last. But I think they did those two like spot on from
Mhm.
any time I've seen. I love how Kilowog trained him, like taught him, like, if you make a sudden, it's gonna pull it into you, and you're like, hee. So, but I think I would have really just maybe had the first half of the movie been him finding it, getting the ring, having all these confrontations.
I'd have the confrontation with Hector be in that first half. And then Hector fails and Parallax kills him.
I don't even know if I would have had Hector. I think I would have had Hector still be in it, but I think I would just have had him be. I liked his character, and honestly, I think I'd rather seen him be a Red Lantern later on because he had so much anger. I don't know if Red Lanterns were introduced yet, but yeah, I think he would have been a great person that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Atrocitus would have found. But I don't know. I just felt really bad for Hector. He wasn't a bad guy. Even when they were trying to give him credit, he said there were doctors that are way beyond my capabilities to study this dead alien.
Mm-hmm.
And when he learned that it was his father who got him the thing, he goes, I can't take this. This is just cheating. But he still was like, all right, I'll do this. And he was a good teacher, but then he just started going crazy. I don't know. I just felt like
The influence of Parallax, his fears manifesting, and
I would have rather had like his dad be the herald.
huh,
His maybe his son is studying something on it and he like gets out of his way, like "Hey, move on, let me see this. Like you're taking forever," and like looks his hand. He's like, "You afraid to touch a dead alien, son?" And he like opens the wound. He's like, "I've seen many gun wounds. That's a bullet wound," and like opens it, and then that's when, I think his dad would have been a great herald. And I think he would have used fear because a man of that high of power demands respect and will. And I think he would have been a good villain, especially after, Hal kind of messed things up in the beginning. Maybe that causing him some stress. The alien probably would have had his dad kill Hector, sadly, or at least like hurt him. And I don't know.
paralyze him,
Yeah.
waist down, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. It would have just
I
been
did
sad.
like I did like the image of Hector in the wheelchair toward the end. I feel like it fit his character a little bit
I don't know
better.
if Hector, I'm kind of curious what Hector was originally, is if he's an original like for the movie or if he's a basically think of him being like Modoc. He gets powers from an asteroid.
Yeah,
So that sort of thing. So, yeah, maybe they could have done a few other villains differently. Maybe had a few different characters. But yeah, in a wheelchair, giant head. Yeah, but man, I definitely think he could have been done better. I just feel bad for him. They just felt like he just did him. They just did his character dirty and too fast. I liked him way too much.
they
So
kind of
maybe it could end with him after his father dies from being the herald. Maybe he gets affected by it. I don't know.
maybe I don't know.
Holy crap! It's only been like 35 minutes.
I know I don't have much else to say honestly.
This is gonna be our shortest a mini-sode. Should we just make it a mini? Well, how about this? If we were to start, how about this? Coming up in the new DC universe, the new movies with James Gunn. When do you hope do you hope that Green Lantern's in it? And is there anyone you'd want him to play him? And would you want him to be introduced early on or later on? How do you think this all should go down?
I don't know. I'm not. I don't follow DC very much.
Okay.
I like Batman. I like the Dark Knight and that series. I'll watch I'll watch Man of Steel again. That was a good movie. Not not Superman, but well, we had that discussion already. I don't know. I'm not, like I said, I don't care much for DC very much. Um I think if they did a Justice League, if they redid the Justice League, I would have him be one of the founding members because I feel like that's I feel like he would say this is how we do it in the universe. How about we have a mini one here on Earth,
Yeah.
kind of deal, um, with Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman. but I don't know. I really don't know.
This might have been a this was a simple episode to do. There's not really too much, and yeah, it was just a movie that wasn't very well done. I think that the main lesson of the story is to overcome your fears, and the movie hit it on the head. But I think that if I would have done this movie, I really would have made that a lot. I would have made him faking it most of the movie. He doesn't ever give off that he's scared. Even Carol tries so hard to get him to admit, like, it's okay to be scared. And maybe in some way, I don't want to have like his father visit him from the afterlife, but even like a flashback
Mm,
in some way of his father admitting, like, I'm scared sometimes. It's okay. And I think even have at to the point where the ring isn't functioning properly because he's suppressing this and he's keeping it from himself. And maybe that's the secret that the lanterns are trying to avoid, or because I feel like Sinestro, they had a good point of him wanting to embrace fear, make it, use it as a weapon, and be stronger than before, versus Hal saying, it's not about being scared, it's about taking that step and fighting it.
hmm Yeah.
Oh, and this episode is I don't want to be done, but
Yeah, I don't know. I'm literally online looking at why people had such an issue with this movie. And one of them is that a lot of movies at that point were about magic rings, like Lord of the Rings, and it just felt like the trope was being overdone.
what? Okay. I mean, I
I
guess.
guess that's I don't know.
Don't compare the Green Lantern ring to the Rings of Power. It's
That's
not,
one of the, yeah.
but that's not even close. That's not even on the same thing. You don't get a lot of power from the. I'm sorry. I'd rather take a Green Lantern ring than the One Ring to rule them all. In my opinion, I
Oh,
don't know. I don't know which one would
I
win the fight.
yeah, I don't know. I exposition. That's another thing. They did not explain anything.
No,
This movie, that is an issue I had with this movie. Is it they did not they they didn't explain very much.
it was very. They should have stayed on Oa so much longer.
Hmm
They had so much going for it. They could have had Hal try to go on missions. I really think this should just been a beginning because Hal really he's in charge of a sector, and that's a whole giant part of the galaxy. And sometimes he's going to be called away. And when he first received that ring, the ring should have communicated with him. They should have had a voice set for the ring. I don't even think the ring ever spoke, did it?
John Hurt.
It was John Hurt.
No, I would
Oh,
have it be John Hurt.
oh, well, John Hurt, Tim, I'm sad to say, is gone.
I know.
So David Tennant will have to be our next one.
I'm down for that.
If you're gonna do it with one of the doctors, I will throw at you another doctor because David Tennant would have been spectacular. His monotone voice.
Mhm.
Hal Jordan, you have just Scrooge McDuck.
Yep.
Huey St-
Yep.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they should have had a voice for the Lantern. He should have been on Oa so much more. He should have met and they should have shown other Lanterns coming in because there's, well, how many was it? 360,000? Was that it? Was that really how many Lanterns there were?
I I don't know.
Was that really it? That's insane. But they are so old. In the newest Justice League movie, in a extended version of it, they actually show a Green Lantern. They're showing how old the Green Lanterns are.
Mhm.
And that was the thing that Darkseid was happy about, was because there was no lanterns on Earth, even though Zack Snyder was trying to get Jon Stewart in. And I was like, how are you going to just bring Jon Stewart in magically? And Martian, just, whatever, we're not here to talk about Justice League.
Nope.
Oh, my head. Anyway. But,
Mhm.
just I really would have had the movie not end on Earth, or at least the final moments would have been Parallax coming to Earth, and everyone's all like, "Oh my gosh, it's going to happen!" And there could have been the part where not John, Hal ran away, and he gets confronted by
Carol.
Carol. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, because she was a big influence, and
Yeah.
he really doesn't need to worry about earthly things. I know that sounds very lame, but the Green Lantern is like way above that. And I don't know. I feel bad, you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another issue that people had was that it felt like a copy and paste with other superhero
Well,
movies.
yeah, like I said,
It's a superhero movie. Like you're gonna have the hero, and you're gonna have the hero's rise, and then his fall, and then he's gonna rise again, and
I can't do
overcome
this, and
his
he
thing.
runs away crying, and he comes back. I got this. Yeah, we've seen that
We've
many
seen that
times.
so many times. We've seen that with
So what do
most
you do
heroes.
to add it differently?
You just have to tell the story in a different way.
Yeah,
That's all you can do.
I
Because
really think.
humanity repeats itself.
Yeah,
That's humanity for you, right? The hero is going to get overwhelmed, and they're just going to get,
they don't
maybe
think
hit
they can
with
hack it.
depression, whatever.
Yeah,
They can't take it anymore, and then they realize I've got to keep doing this. If I'm not doing this, who's going to do it? Kind of thing. We see that everywhere. um
it even could have been that this Parallax wasn't even in this movie. It could have been a
yeah.
whole other thing entirely, but the threat was so bad that he was debating on. He said to the Guardians, "Our will is not working. Our fear is breaking us. I saw many lanterns get killed by maybe it's an army, whatever." And then the Guardians, he brings up, he needs, because Sinestro in all of his, wisdom is like, what of the Guardian who is missing? Because if you noticed in their ring, one of the thrones was shattered.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
like, fear. We can use that. If they're using it on us, why can't we use it? And then the Guardians are like, no, we can't do this. This is dumb. Don't even think it. Don't try it. Just that sort of thing.
Don't try.
Don't try it.
Underestimate my powers.
And I feel like that would have been, even it could have been a great debate, and it could have been, they have a giant council, and we have some who say, embrace the fear, follow Sinestro, or, stay and fight. And slowly Hal Jordan is becoming the voice of this. We have very similar to Christianity sort of thing, We have two sides of heaven. What's going to happen? They're going to get cast out. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Oh, wow. I never thought of it that way. That blew my mind. Or even just the end. Yeah, and it could have been sad because Sinestro could have embraced the Green Lantern, the Yellow Lantern, and he says his own oath, and they defeat it together. But then they realize that Sinestro can no longer, they're like, you did it. All right, give it up.
Mm-hmm.
Give it away. And then I could imagine him saying his oath right then and there. And then far away in the deep crevices of the galaxy, there's just a voice calling to him, Parallax. I feel like that could have been a later installment. But I think building the Sinestro Corps, putting down Hal Jordan as one of the best lanterns, or at least one of the best, newest lanterns, to show like, oh, this human is really going to change things. That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that could have been way better. Just that conflict. Because we hardly see the other lanterns. It's all about Hal Jordan. But honestly, the Green Lantern, all that stuff is going to be out there. It's not going to be on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if he ran away. Maybe if he had to go fight some things. But Earth is so little to the grand scheme of the Lantern Corps. It should have taken place on other planets. So maybe this movie should have waited.
But that is another issue with this movie that other people pointed out, and I kind of agree, is the story kind of like the adventure went to voicemail is how people are putting it. How Hal had a duty He was given his duty, and he was like, "Nah, I'm good."
It's a pretty big duty.
Yep, hero's duty.
It's not that kind of duty.
But
I
no, it was. I don't know. It felt like the classic trope. You're given a lot of power, and then you're like, "That's a lot of responsibility. I'm good." You know, I don't know. We see that with Spider-Man, right? Tobey Maguire
in the second one.
in the second one,
Yeah.
he gives it up. He leaves Spider-Man behind.
It's a lot to be a hero.
It is. It's a lot. It's a lot to be more than human.
It's a lot
Is what
to
it is.
take responsibility. Whether in the military, not everyone can hack it.
Yeah.
Police officer, firemen, doctors, surgeons. These are all great modern day heroes of our time. I can't imagine. I've always considered being a firefighter, but police officer, that seems a little too much responsibility. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
I've worked in social security, and I don't think I could hack more than what I did. It's there are real life heroes, and the amount of willpower that it takes to be a hero and to be just a decent human being is a lot.
Yeah, it's easier to be a pile of garbage.
Yeah. Except you didn't use the word garbage.
I did not. I did not want to use the word garbage.
No.
It to have a charge over people. We see this in Sanderson's books.
Yeah,
To have a charge is hard. To be better is hard.
absolutely. But when you accept that responsibility and you do what you're supposed to do, that was one of the most rewarding jobs I ever had, was working Social Security. It was a lot of responsibility. It took a lot of time, and it took a lot of mental, physical, and emotional strength. It took a lot of willpower to go into work every day knowing that I'm going to be called names, and I'm going to have kids who are
Violent.
and incredibly rude, having them yell at me and potentially hurt me. Right? I got punched one time at work, and where I worked, we weren't supposed to take the violent kids, but we took one of them for some stupid reason. And anyway, it turned out to be a mess, but I stayed because I wanted to make a difference, and it was so rewarding. I ran into one of the kids that I used to mentor
Aw.
about a month and a half ago. It was like right before Christmas. I've seen a few of them around, and I ignore them. I pretend they don't exist because, oh boy, that was rough. But this one, I ran into him, and he's doing really well, and
Good.
he's actually planning on serving an LDS mission now,
Aw.
which before he wanted nothing to do with anybody, with his family, with his friends. He wanted to end his life. He wanted to just live on his own.
Well, even
blah,
with
blah, all that.
rehabilitation,
And
it's
like,
the same thing
yeah,
as growing. And it's so cool to like see the parallels of that. And but you don't regret doing that job, do you?
no, not at all.
But it was hard.
It was very hard.
Imagine if
But
it was easy. Imagine if they just walked in, you gave them a tap on the head, and they were just healed.
it wouldn't have been worth it. It would not have been worth the money that I got paid. I got paid very poorly. But yeah, no, I wasn't working there for the money. I was working there because I felt like I had a duty to perform, and it was worth it. I got my payment in ways aside from money. Um,
And that's why you still do it.
and that's why I still do
did
it. And that's why I did it. I don't still do it, but that's why I did it. And now, right, with super, we're talking going back to the superheroes. Sorry, I am having a really hard time Englishing today.
That's
I
impossible.
apologize to all of you.
It's okay. We still love you.
But going back to the superheroes, we take a look at Spider-Man, right? And Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, he took the mantle of Spider-Man upon himself again to save people because it was his duty and
It
because
was the right
it was
thing.
the right thing to do. And that's, I feel like that's the thing that sets Hal Jordan apart from everyone else, is he understands the fear and he's willing to admit his fears, and yet he still has that responsibility and he's going to do it anyway. Right? And the Green Lantern Corps, they're all about duty and responsibility. They are afraid to admit their fears. And that's that again, that's what sets Hal Jordan apart
And
as a Green Lantern.
to have them have this, I just imagine it's not trying to pull Christianity here, but the stories of the Sadducees. They were these men who thought they were above everyone else. They are without flaw. You have to follow everything directly.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can just say, maybe instead of saying Pharisee, I'll just say just zealots of any kind.
Yeah.
People get so caught up in their ideologies that they become so unwilling to see flaws. They're unwilling to see redemption, which is the whole point of all these things. So if you're scared, okay, what are you going to do to fight it?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do to embrace your will? And
How are you going to improve yourself and grow?
I really think it would have been cool to see Hal break. Like one of his constructs breaks, he almost dies, he gets saved,
Yeah,
and he rushes back to Earth.
I'm surprised that didn't happen. I was waiting. I was honestly waiting to see him make more constructs. For one, we only saw him make, what was it, the race car and
It's
the
again,
jets at
it
the
was
end.
very disappointing.
I would have liked to have seen more of his creations. I would have liked to see some of them break. His will break.
Yeah, I think Parallax not being in this movie would have been good. The main could have been an army of certain aliens. They're trying to protect this. They're trying to protect Oa, maybe anything like that. You fill in the blank of how you want it, but the main goal could have been the lanterns have been getting killed off. There's something going on. They are being killed. That's why one finally reached Earth. Because Abin Sur was running away or trying to get away, and he crash lands in front of Hal. And I love that. That was a good part. Was when Hal sees someone
He
struggling,
sees
doesn't hesitate.
uh-huh. He notices, the purple skin. He notices that it's an alien and it's a spaceship, but he sets his fears aside and helps because that's who he's supposed to be. He's supposed to have the Tony Stark bit of rebelliousness
A little bit,
and
but
just
he's
a little
he's a
bit.
cocky, but
Yeah,
the moment he saw someone, like he sees him like
struggling for
struggle,
life.
and he runs, and like it would have been amazing to see him just maybe he does something that got him all, that he was showing off his cocky side, but yet he was also showing he didn't have fear. He was not being afraid, and it almost got him killed. That sort of thing, even in
Mhm.
like a test, maybe with those jets. I don't know, but he got yelled at by everybody. Everyone's pretty mad at him. And then to see the jet come down, he runs. He can't understand a word. Well, actually, the translator would still work to some degree. But it would have been cool to see the alien, having sort of trying to talk to him. And he keeps breaking in and out of English and another language because the ring's like, he's dying.
Mhm.
But then he says, don't be afraid. Have like, just in short, the message to Hal Jordan would be, don't be afraid. And he's even trying to say the oath in the end. He like starts off like, in blackest day, alien language, brightest night. And Hal's just like trying to hold him like, wait, what? And then finally the ring falls off. We hear David Tennant's voice because now that's all I hear. And it's like,
Mhm.
Hal Jordan of Earth, you have been chosen as a Green Lantern.
What about John Mulaney?
No, no. I mean, it could be sassy. That would be funny.
That would be funny.
Hal,
No,
but
I don't think it would
he,
be.
I think someone honest, like it's supposed to be like a Jarvis type character. It's supposed to be highly intellectual and I think John Mulaney could do that, but I think David Tennant would just,
Mhm.
just that famous line. He and Hal's sitting there and he's freaking out. They're on base and you hear all the sirens. But Hal Jordan of Earth, you have been chosen. Like, that is what the ring should have said. Just the ring, that that needs to be in any future development. It's just like Uncle Ben dying. It's just like with great power comes great responsibility. The ring needs to appear in front of him off of Abin Sur and say, Hal Jordan of Earth, you have been chosen. Do you accept responsibility? And when he does, well, as he says the oath, that's when the suit first appears. Sorry. I love Green
Yeah.
Lantern, so I would probably tear up a bit. I would love to see like a younger Green Lantern, maybe this young man, or even could be probably my age. I would definitely cry if he was closer to my age because he's just this pilot, kind of pushes everyone away because secretly he is scared of losing people, but he just pretends not to.
Mhm.
But just having him get on the ring would get the ring on, and then the ring talks to him. The ring would have been hilarious, like, and it could be funny because he's trying to ignore it. He gets the suit off, and while he's talking, the ring's like talking to him in his mind. He's like, "Quiet, people are gonna hear you. I am in your mind, Hal Jordan. You do not need to worry." And he's like, "Please, you must report to Oa." And he's like, "Shut up!" And he's like trying to eat something in the middle of like a
Mhm.
a mess hall, and everyone's like,
Yeah, that
just so many things like that. And then finally he goes, "All right, let's go to Oa." And he just gets shot off.
uh-huh.
The lantern puts the suit on and he starts flying. It's pulling him away. And he goes, "What's happening?" That sort of thing. Easily could have happened. But no, they didn't.
I feel like there were a lot of parts that were just so slow to get to, and then they just dragged some other bits out way too long, rushed other parts. The narration at the beginning, I felt like they could have put it on 75% speed instead of 100% speed. Like they should have slowed it down just a
Yeah, it
little
was
bit.
very fast. And the thing is, they didn't even need that in the beginning because he could have explained to Hal Jordan all of that.
That's true.
And I feel like starting with Hal Jordan at the beginning as a young man, learning about fear, just like, and it might be cheesy because we see it with Bruce Wayne all the time, but just having his father teach him that, and then later on in the movie, keep getting flashbacks,
Mhm.
and then just like it's okay if it's something we've all seen.
Yeah.
It's okay. Uncle Iroh and Zuko at the very beginning, their last embrace. How can you forgive me? We've seen that story many times. Many Christians know that story very well, but
Hmm.
it's okay to have a redundant story if you can just have powerful emotion, bring the audience, tell the story well, and maybe add a few things to make the audience go, "This is what I need today." Make it be a movie that when someone is like, "I've been scared lately, I want to watch this." Sometimes when I feel like I need to be more responsible, I turn on Spider-Man, especially Into the Spider-Verse. I feel like Miles,
Yeah.
that is probably one of the best. The first one, I will not say that the second one is the best because I don't have part 2 yet.
I
So
know.
when
We're
I when
getting
I
that.
when I get that
Five
part
months or
2,
3 months. 3 months coming out in May.
it's gonna be me. Anyway, but I wish it would have been a movie that you turn it on and you want to be better. Just like sometimes I watch The Dark Knight Rises, and watching
Hmm.
him climb out of the hole without the rope is, to me, I always just tear up a bit. Him fighting Bane, Bane breaking him. We've seen these stories so many times. So why not? Don't try to be all fancy with it. Tell the story well. Bring the emotion. Write it in a way that the audience will go, "Yeah." Because how many of us have been scared and ran off and we regret it?
All the time. I feel like that's part of what makes us human. Again, I say it, I've said it a lot this episode, but part of being human is having fear and running from it and then facing it later or facing our fears right off. It's one of the traits that makes us so human. It's what drives us to be better. It's what drives us to try. if none of us had fear, I don't think much would get done,
No.
because we'd all be comfortable with anything. So we're not going to try anything new, because why would we try something new?
The lesson was there in this movie, the lesson of overcoming fear, but
Mhm.
it just wasn't as strong as it could have been. There were a
Yeah.
few scenes that I was like, yeah, that was good. And it's okay to show and for them having support, but the rest of it being hashed out wasn't that strong. It wasn't a bad movie. I can watch this again in another decade or so, but
Mhm.
it's not the worst, not the best.
If it's on, I'll watch it.
Yeah,
I'm
if
not
it's
gonna
on,
I'm
I'll
not
watch
gonna
it,
actively turn it off.
but I'm not going
Right?
to actively turn
It's
it on
not
either.
Babylon AD. I'm not gonna turn it off because it's so bad. But
No, 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 no. If I was watching Babylon 80 and it was the last 20 minutes, like I was flipping through channels, I would probably watch
the
it. If it
last
was
20
like 20
minutes, yeah,
minutes.
sure.
But that means I have to watch it. Ooh, I
Well,
can't.
but yeah, no, this wasn't. Again, a lot of people that I've talked to, they did not like this movie. A lot of the lists online that I've found for our podcast suggested we do this movie because a lot of people did not like it. And I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, compared to what we've gotten recently, I would watch this if I had to choose a movie between this movie and most of the Marvel movies that have come out in the last few years. I would choose this movie.
I think I'd still watch Eternals.
I don't know.
But Eternals is just long
It
and
is
should not
long.
have been a movie. But we will
We'll cover that another
we will
day.
get to that.
That is on our list.
Well,
So,
I guess any final thoughts for them? Because this is
mm,
I think it's Tim said it best, and it's kind of like with Batman and Superman and these sort of things. We just have ideas for what we want in the future because what we've seen in the past isn't well done.
mhm.
I would never want to have another Iron Man movie
No,
because it's been
I don't want them to remake it because what we got is perfect.
it
They did
was
it well. However, this movie, I would be okay with them remaking if they did it well, because it didn't quite hit the mark. I'd be okay with another Superman movie, because for me, as good as Man of Steel is as a movie, it didn't hit the mark as a Superman
it
movie.
is a good movie.
It is a good
It's
movie,
just
not a
not
great Superman
Superman.
movie. Then there's others. A lot of Star Wars, right? I remakes 7, 8, and 9. That's what I'm doing because I was disappointed. It didn't hit the mark, and that's what we need.
We we don't
Is
need it doesn't need to be perfect. And many of us already know the stories of these characters. I think what's the hard thing about making these Marvel movies and DC movies is making them a team and bringing them together. And I think that's what Marvel did so well is they did the origins, they did it pretty safe. And yes, they weren't all the original Marvel movies before Avengers. They weren't all perfect. But
no,
when Avengers came, that build up was spectacular.
and from Avengers on, there was always at least one Avenger in each movie,
Yep.
aside from the main character.
Yep.
And I feel like the team building that Marvel did, they did a really good job, and I think DC could pull that off really well.
They could even
DC has
start
fantastic heroes. I love Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and Green Lantern. I Aquaman not so much, but I think he plays his part.
Aquaman is one of the coolest characters.
He is cool. He is cool. I just
It's hard to relate, and I
it is
get
hard
it.
to relate.
It's he hasn't he got wasted too.
Yeah, but I feel like if they could take these characters and do them justice,
Ha.
um, pun not intended, but you know,
I appreciate it regardless.
if they could do these heroes justice, I feel like it could be fantastic. This, if DC could learn a thing or two from Marvel and make a good movie that's not a good series of movies that aren't. I don't want the focus
I want a
to be on that.
story.
I want a good story. I don't care about the side garbage. I don't care
If you give me a
about.
good story, I will take the side garbage, but
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
want okay, if you give me a good story and if you have hints of things and if you have some small statements here and there, absolutely fine. It's there. If it's hinted at, wonderful. That's
Mhm.
the best way to do it. That's the best way
It
to do
is.
advertising. It gets you thinking. But if you walk around with a neon sign saying XYZ, XYZ, people aren't going to really want it because you're shoving it down their throat.
Mhm. and and that doesn't just apply to the all of the new stuff that we're seeing in media. That includes the side story that doesn't really matter, but that's what they're showing because the main story they can't get it right, you know. And I feel like that's happened to a lot of movies nowadays. Is the side story is what we focus on because the main story has been done so much. They're like, we'll try something new, and it fails, it flops.
You know, for in closing, for me, I'll say this, and then we'll let y'all go. If y'all want to really get kind of the Justice League feel I want, I would say look up Justice League Wars. It's an animated Justice League movie. And if you follow the movies that follow on after in that little animated universe DC did from 2013 to 2020, some of the best stuff I've ever seen. But I want to leave you all kind of in a thoughtful mood. And, we've talked about a lot of fear, talked about being human. I wanted to finish off with the Blue Lantern Oath, which is about hope. And I just find it kind of fitting in what we were talking about fear, trying to be better. And so here's just the final thought, and we'll let you all go. In fearful day, in raging night, with strong hearts full, our souls ignite. When all seems lost in the war of light, look to the stars, for hope shines bright. And yeah, have hope. Don't be afraid. You are all your own personal hero. You all got this. All right. Well, with that, we will see you later, pitches. Have a great week.